The sun rose over the eastern mountains of Hope Colony, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. Today marked 50 years since the first humans had set foot on this distant world, transforming an alien landscape into a thriving settlement of 10,000 souls. Jack Reed stood at the edge of the main plaza, watching colony workers hang colorful banners across buildings. As head of security, he should have been focused on the potential risks of such a large gathering, but even he couldn't help feeling proud. Hope Colony represented humanity's first successful step into the stars. Thinking deep thoughts again? Lisa's voice pulled him from his reverie. His wife slipped her hand into his, her work gloves still covered in soil from the agricultural dome. Just wondering what the founders would think if they could see us now, Jack said, smiling at her. After 15 years of marriage, Lisa's presence still calmed him like nothing else. They'd be amazed, she replied. Remember the old videos? This place was nothing but rocks and dust. Now look at it. The colony had grown from a cluster of habitat modules to a proper settlement with neighborhoods, schools, and parks. Children who had never seen Earth played under trees transplanted from humanity's home world. It was everything the mission planners had hoped for. Governor Tom Cooper's voice boomed over the settlement speakers. All citizens are invited to the main plaza this evening for the Founders' Day celebration. 50 years of human achievement on a new world. Jack's radio crackled. Chief Reed, this is communications. We've got something unusual you should see. On my way, Jack replied, giving Lisa a quick kiss. Save me a spot at the celebration. Always, she promised. At the communication center, Ben Parker hunched over his monitoring station, face tight with concentration. The young specialist had only arrived on the last supply ship from Earth. What am I looking at, Parker? Jack asked, studying the display. Signals, sir. From the edge of the system. They appeared about 30 minutes ago. Ben pointed to wave patterns on his screen. Nothing natural makes patterns like this. Jack felt a chill run through him. Could it be from Earth? Wrong direction, sir. And no scheduled ships for another 6 months. Jack straightened up. Alert the governor. I want a security team ready, just in case. Hours passed with increasing tension. Scientists argued about the signals while Jack doubled security patrols. The celebration continued, but with a nervous energy as rumors spread. Jack was reviewing evacuation protocols when every alarm in the colony suddenly blared to life. Multiple objects entering orbit. Ben's voice cracked over the radio. Massive ships, nothing like ours. Jack ran outside and looked up. Even in daylight, he could see them, dark shapes moving across the sky, bigger than anything humans had ever built. All personnel to emergency stations, he ordered into his radio. This is not a drill. In the command center, Governor Cooper was frantically sending messages toward Earth. Unknown vessels have entered orbit. Requesting immediate assistance. Those messages will take years to reach Earth, Jack said grimly. We have to try, Cooper replied. These could be peaceful visitors. The floor shook beneath them, answering that hope with terrible finality. The first impacts hit the outer agricultural domes. Lisa, Jack whispered, grabbing his weapon and running toward the agriculture sector. Around him, the colony descended into chaos as more explosions tore through buildings and habitat modules. The agricultural dome was partially collapsed when he reached it. Workers streamed out in panic while emergency systems blared warnings. Jack pushed against the tide of people. Lisa Reed, has anyone seen her? He shouted. A blood-covered technician grabbed his arm. East section. The roof came down. Jack fought his way through falling debris and smoke. Lisa. Lisa. He found her trapped beneath a fallen support beam, surrounded by the plants she had tended so carefully. Her eyes found his as he struggled to lift the crushing weight. "Jack," she whispered. They didn't even say hello. Her eyes went still as another explosion rocked the dome. The next hours passed in a blur of horror. Jack moved on autopilot, helping survivors reach the emergency shuttles as the colony, humanity's greatest achievement, was systematically destroyed around them. Only one small transport managed to launch before the landing pads were destroyed. Aboard were Jack, Ben, Governor Cooper, and 23 others, all that remained of 10,000 colonists. From orbit, they watched in stunned silence as the alien ships methodically reduced Hope Colony to rubble, then turned massive mining equipment toward the planet itself. "Why?" Cooper whispered. "We never threatened anyone." Jack stared at the burning ruins that had been his home, that held Lisa's body along with thousands of others. The pain in his chest hardened into something dark and cold. "It doesn't matter why," he said finally, his voice flat. "What matters is what happens next." Ben looked up from the navigation console. "Course set for Earth. We'll arrive in 3 months if fuel holds out." Jack nodded, his eyes never leaving the view screen as the alien ships continued their work below. 3 months, he repeated softly. 3 months to prepare Earth. 3 months to make sure this never happens again. The small ship turned and accelerated away from the graveyard that had once been humanity's brightest hope, carrying with it the seeds of mankind's revenge. The escape vessel was designed for short orbital trips, not a 3-month journey across deep space. 26 survivors crammed into a space meant for 15, sharing recycled air and water rationed to sips. Jack Reed sat alone in the narrow maintenance corridor, the only place on the ship that offered any privacy. 3 weeks had passed since Hope Colony's destruction, but each time he closed his eyes, he saw Lisa's face as the life faded from it. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Ben Parker, the young communications officer, hovered awkwardly in the cramped space. Governor Cooper called a meeting, Ben said, his once pudgy face now gaunt from rationing. "We picked up transmissions from Earth." In the central cabin, the survivors gathered around the small view screen. Some still wore bandages from injuries sustained during the evacuation. All carried the hollow-eyed look of those who had witnessed atrocity. "Earth Space Defense Command has received fragments of our distress call," Cooper explained, his governor's authority reduced to managing their floating coffin. "They know something happened, but not what. The signal degradation was too severe." "They're sending rescue?" someone asked. Cooper shook his head. "Too far. We'll reach Earth before any rescue ship could reach us." "If we reach Earth," a technician muttered. "Life support's running at 30% capacity." Jack stepped forward. "We'll make it," he said firmly. "And when we do, Earth needs to be ready. Everyone here needs to record everything they saw. Every detail about the alien ships, their weapons, their tactics. Earth's survival depends on it." The remainder of the journey blurred into a numbing routine of conservation and survival. 2 passengers died from infected wounds. Another took his own life, leaving 23 survivors as Earth finally appeared as a blue marble in their view screen. Military vessels intercepted them, escorting the battered transport to a quarantine facility in lunar orbit. Medical teams in isolation suits rushed aboard, separating the survivors for treatment and debriefing. Jack found himself in a sterile white room, facing a wall of screens. On the center display, a grim-faced man in an admiral's uniform studied him. "Admiral Wilson, Earth Space Defense Command," the man introduced himself. "Mr. Reed, I need you to tell me exactly what happened at Hope Colony." For the next 3 hours, Jack recounted every detail, his security training allowing him to provide precise descriptions of the alien ships, their attack patterns, and the methodical destruction they inflicted. When he finished, Admiral Wilson's expression had grown even darker. "You should know that Hope Colony isn't the only one," Wilson said finally. We've lost contact with 3 other outposts in the past month. No distress calls, just silence. Jack felt a cold wave wash over him. They're targeting all human settlements. That's our assessment, Wilson confirmed. The Defense Council is meeting in 12 hours. I want you there. The United Nations Emergency Council chamber hummed with tension as representatives from Earth's major powers argued over response strategies. Jack sat beside Admiral Wilson, watching the debate with growing frustration. We can't be certain this is a coordinated attack, one representative insisted. For colonies gone isn't enough proof, another shot back. Director Emma Jones, head of Earth's intelligence agency, stepped to the podium. Our analysis suggests these attacks are systematic elimination of human presence beyond our solar system. We're calling the attackers the destroyers until we have better information. What's being done to protect Earth? Demanded a third representative. Admiral Wilson stood. We've accelerated development of our next-generation warships. The first, under Captain Taylor's command, will be ready for deployment in 2 weeks. And their mission? Jones asked. Find these destroyers and hit them before they hit us, Wilson replied. The chamber erupted in debate again. Jack stopped listening, his mind filled with images of Lisa and burning buildings. Later, in Wilson's office, the Admiral studied Jack's psychological evaluation. The doctors recommend against putting you on active duty, Wilson said. PTSD, survivor's guilt, abnormal fixation on revenge. With respect, Admiral, I watched these creatures destroy my home and kill my wife, Jack replied. I know how they think, how they attack. You need me. Wilson set down the report. Captain Mike Taylor is leading our first response fleet. He needs a tactical advisor who understands these destroyers. That's me, Jack said without hesitation. Your rage could cloud your judgment, Wilson warned. Jack met his gaze steadily. My rage is the only thing keeping me focused. Wilson nodded slowly. Report to the orbital shipyard tomorrow. Captain Taylor will brief you on the mission. The next morning, Jack stood at a viewing port overlooking Earth's largest military shipyard. Below, the warship Vengeance gleamed, bristling with weapons systems. Workers swarmed around 5 other vessels in various stages of completion. Captain Taylor, a compact man with close-cropped hair, joined him at the window. Admiral Wilson says you've seen these bastards up close, Taylor said without preamble. I have, Jack confirmed. Good. Because our mission isn't just exploration or defense, Taylor's eyes were hard. We're going hunting. For the first time since watching Hope Colony burn, Jack felt something besides grief. It was purpose, cold and sharp as a blade. When do we leave? He asked. 1 week, Taylor replied. Time enough to prepare Earth's answer to these destroyers. Jack looked back at the warships below. Not just Earth's answer, he said quietly. Hope Colony's answer too. The warship Vengeance cut through space, its engines leaving a blue trail as it led Earth's first strike fleet toward the coordinates of Outpost Sigma, another human settlement that had gone silent. Jack Reed stood on the bridge beside Captain Taylor, studying tactical displays. 2 months had passed since they'd left Earth. 2 months of preparation, training, and waiting. Approaching Sigma's system, announced the navigation officer. ETA 20 minutes. Captain Taylor turned to Jack. Recommendations? Enter at reduced speed, Jack replied. The destroyers hit Hope Colony from higher orbit first. If they're still here, that's where they'll be. Taylor nodded, then addressed his crew. Battle stations. Weapon systems hot but locked. Stealth protocols active. Dr. Robert Allien, the fleet's chief xenobiologist, joined them on the bridge. If they're still there, we need prisoners for study, he reminded them. Our priority is assessing the threat and testing their defenses, Taylor countered. Capture is secondary. The fleet entered the system in tight formation, sensors sweeping for any sign of the enemy. They found Outpost Sigma in ruins, just as Jack had expected. But unlike Hope Colony, the destroyers had moved on. Look at the pattern of destruction, Jack pointed to scans of the surface. Same as Hope. They hit the command centers first, then power, then systematically took out defensive positions. Taylor studied the data. How long ago? Radiation signatures suggest 3 weeks, replied a sensor technician. For the next 2 days, the fleet searched the system while teams cataloged evidence on the planet below. Jack joined Dr. Allien as they examined the ruins. They're harvesting something, Allien said, showing Jack soil samples. Key minerals are completely stripped from these areas. Jack felt his jaw tighten. So we're just in their way? They kill thousands for mining rights? Allien shook his head. It's more systematic than that. They're eliminating potential competition. Before Jack could respond, his communicator beeped. Captain Taylor's voice came through, tense and controlled. Reed, return to the ship immediately. Our scouts found something in the outer system. Back aboard the Vengeance, Taylor showed Jack the discovery, a small moon with artificial structures on its surface. A destroyer outpost, Jack breathed, studying the images. Too small for their main base, but definitely their technology. Taylor nodded. We're sending in a strike team to gather intelligence and technology. Sergeant Miller will lead the ground force. I'm going with them, Jack said immediately. Taylor frowned. You're an advisor, not a soldier. I've seen these things up close. None of your people have. After a tense silence, Taylor nodded reluctantly. Gear up. You leave in 30 minutes. The drop ship descended toward the moon's surface, its stealth systems masking their approach. Inside, Jack sat with 15 Marines in black armor. Sergeant Dave Miller, a veteran with a scarred face, gave final instructions. Primary objective is intel gathering. Secondary is capturing technology. Tertiary is taking prisoners. He looked directly at Jack. Stay behind me, civilian. The young soldier beside Jack shifted nervously, checking his weapon for the 3rd time. His name tag read Walker. First combat? Jack asked quietly. Walker nodded. Signed up after news about the colonies reached Earth. My cousin was on Sigma. Jack understood all too well. Stay focused. Follow orders. We'll make them pay. The drop ship landed silently 2 kilometers from the destroyer outpost. The team moved through the alien landscape, approaching a collection of curved structures built into the moon's surface. No signs of detection, Miller whispered as they reached an entrance. Breaching team, go. Engineers worked on the alien door while the rest provided cover. Jack studied the structure, similar to the ships that had destroyed Hope Colony, but smaller scale. The door slid open, revealing a dimly lit corridor. The team activated night vision and moved inside. They progressed through winding tunnels until reaching a large chamber filled with humming equipment. And there, working at what looked like control stations, were the destroyers. Jack saw them clearly for the first time, insectoid creatures standing on 4 rear legs, with 2 manipulator limbs and an armor-plated upper body. Their heads featured multiple compound eyes and clicking mandibles. Miller gestured for the team to hold position while the technical specialists recorded everything. Jack felt a cold satisfaction seeing the enemy that had haunted his dreams. Then Private Walker stumbled, knocking equipment to the floor with a crash. The destroyers spun toward the sound, chittering in alarm. One reached for a panel on the wall. Take them. Miller ordered, and the chamber erupted in gunfire. The battle was brief but intense. 3 Marines went down under the destroyer's energy weapons. Jack fired his own weapon, the the recoil shocking through his arms as he watched a destroyer fall. Walker took a hit to the chest that knocked him backward. Jack dragged the young soldier behind cover, returning fire with his free hand. Capture one alive. Dr. Allen's voice came through their comms. We need to understand them. Miller and 2 Marines cornered a wounded destroyer, disabling rather than killing it. The creature thrashed as they secured it with restraints. Package secured, Miller reported. Technical team, get what you need. 5 minutes, then we're gone. Jack knelt beside Walker, whose armor had partially melted from the energy blast. Hang on, kid. Medic's coming. Walker gripped Jack's arm. Did we get them? For my cousin. We got them, Jack assured him. This is just the beginning. They escaped with the prisoner and stolen technology, racing back to the drop ship as alarms wailed behind them. The Vengeance was waiting in orbit, ready to extract them before reinforcements arrived. In the ship's secure lab, Dr. Allen examined their captive while engineers studied the stolen tech. Captain Taylor called an emergency briefing. We've made first contact, he told the assembled officers. And drawn first blood. Now we need to understand what we're really facing before the real war begins. Jack stared through the observation window at the restrained destroyer. They didn't bother trying to understand us, he said quietly. They just destroyed everything we built. That's why we're better than them, Dr. Allen replied. We seek understanding before destruction. Jack wasn't so sure. Understanding might help win the war, but it wouldn't bring back Lisa or the colonies. For that, only one thing would suffice: justice delivered from the barrels of Earth's biggest guns. Alarms blared throughout the Vengeance as the bridge crew rushed to battle stations. Jack sprinted from the lab where he'd been observing the destroyer prisoner, arriving on the bridge as Captain Taylor was issuing commands. Multiple destroyer vessels entering the system, the sensor officer reported. 9 ships. Largest is twice our size. Taylor's face remained calm, but Jack saw the tension in his shoulders. They responded faster than we anticipated. All ships, battle formation Delta. Prepare for engagement. Jack studied the tactical display. Captain, they'll surround us using the same pattern they used at Hope Colony. Their ships always maintain equal spacing for maximum weapons coverage. Taylor nodded. Lieutenant, signal the fleet. We'll use their predictability against them. The human fleet of 6 warships formed a tight cluster rather than spreading out, confusing the destroyer targeting systems. When the alien ships moved to encircle them, Taylor sprung his trap. All ships, execute sunburst maneuver. The human vessels suddenly accelerated in different directions, slipping between the closing destroyer formation. 3 human ships focused fire on one alien vessel, overwhelming its shields with concentrated firepower. Direct hit, shouted the weapons officer as the destroyer ship erupted in flames. The bridge crew cheered, but Jack knew better. They're adapting, he warned, pointing to the display where the remaining destroyer ships were shifting tactics. The battle intensified. Human ships darted in and out, landing hits while trying to avoid the devastating power of the destroyer's main weapons. The Vengeance shuddered as enemy fire broke through their shields. Hull breach on decks 7 through 9, reported the damage control officer. Emergency bulkheads engaged. 2 more human ships were hit, one breaking apart under the assault. The tide was turning against them. We need to retreat, Taylor decided grimly. We've learned what we came for. As the captain issued evacuation orders, Jack grabbed his arm. The data in the main computers, all the information about the prisoner, the technology. We can't let them get it. Taylor hesitated only briefly. Download everything to portable storage. You have 5 minutes before I scuttle this ship. Jack raced through damaged corridors with 2 technicians, reaching the main data center as another hit rocked the vessel. They worked frantically, copying crucial files while deletion protocols wiped the ship's memory. "Download complete," one technician called, handing Jack a small data core. "Get to the escape pods," Jack ordered. "I'll be right behind you." As the others left, Jack entered one final command, purging all records of Earth's location from the ship's navigation systems. If the destroyers recovered anything, they wouldn't find humanity's home. Jack barely made it to the last escape pod before the self-destruct sequence entered its final phase. Through the viewport, he watched the Vengeance erupt in a blinding flash as the reactor core overloaded. The scattered human fleet limped back to Earth, having lost half their ships but carrying precious intelligence. Admiral Wilson greeted the survivors personally at the Orbital Defense Station. "We underestimated their response time and firepower," Taylor reported. "But we've gathered critical data." In the weeks that followed, Earth's best minds studied everything they'd learned. Jack divided his time between military briefings and visiting the medical bay where Private Walker was slowly recovering. "They've hit 3 more colonies since our battle," Jack told the young soldier. "Admiral Wilson says they're moving methodically through human-settled systems." Walker's face was partially reconstructed after his injuries. "Are we losing?" Before Jack could answer, the door opened and Dr. Mary White entered. The weapons developer had been working non-stop with the stolen destroyer technology. "We've made a breakthrough," she announced. "Their energy weapons operate on principles we can adapt to our own systems. We can match their firepower." Hope flickered in Jack's chest for the first time in months. Later that day, in Admiral Wilson's command center, Lieutenant Frank Brown presented his analysis of destroyer attack patterns. "They're working inward from the outer colonies," Brown explained, displaying a star map with red markers showing destroyed settlements. "Based on their systematic approach, I believe their home system is located here." He highlighted a sector of space previously unexplored by humans. Admiral Wilson studied the map thoughtfully. "You're certain?" "As certain as possible without direct confirmation," Brown replied. Jack stepped forward. "Then we need to strike there, at their heart. Show them the same mercy they showed us." Wilson's expression darkened. "We've been developing something. A weapon that could end this war in one strike." He activated a secure display showing schematics for a device of terrifying power. Planet killer capability. One shot could destroy their entire homeworld. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "We would be committing the same kind of genocide they've inflicted on us," objected Commander John Smith, who had arrived with the Second Fleet from Earth. "This is about survival," Jack argued, thinking of Lisa and Hope Colony. "They started this war. We'll finish it." The debate raged for hours, ultimately reaching Earth's governing council. After days of deliberation, the decision was made: Earth would strike at the supposed destroyer homeworld with everything they had, including the superweapon. A new fleet was assembled, larger and more powerful than any humanity had ever built. The flagship, appropriately named Redemption, carried the planet-killer weapon. Jack, now officially commissioned as a tactical officer, stood in the observation lounge as the fleet prepared for departure. Captain Taylor joined him, looking out at the assembled warships. "Having second thoughts?" Taylor asked quietly. Jack thought about the destroyer they'd captured, about the way it had watched them with alien eyes that showed no remorse, no concept that killing thousands was wrong. "No," he replied firmly. "They brought this on themselves." But as the fleet jumped toward the coordinates of the destroyer homeworld, Jack couldn't help wondering what they would find there, and whether humanity's revenge would bring any real peace to the dead of Hope Colony. The massive human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system Lieutenant Brown had identified. 50 warships, the largest armada humanity had ever assembled, moved in tight formation as they approached their target. On the bridge of the flagship Redemption, General William Anderson surveyed the tactical display. Jack Reed stood nearby, his security uniform replaced by an officer's insignia after his formal commission. "Stealth systems engaged," reported the operations officer. "No signs they've detected us yet." General Anderson nodded. "Deploy scout ships. I want detailed scans of the entire system before we commit." Dr. Linda Gray, the mission's ethical advisor, spoke quietly to Jack. "The Council insisted on my presence to make sure we don't cross lines we can't uncross." Jack's expression remained neutral. The lines were crossed when they destroyed Hope Colony without warning or mercy. The scouts returned 6 hours later with shocking news. The fourth planet in the system was indeed the destroyer homeworld, a massive planet covered in interconnected hive structures that housed billions of the insectoid aliens. "Their defenses are beyond anything we anticipated," reported the scout commander. "Orbital platforms, defense fleets, planetary shields. A direct assault would be costly, even with our new weapons." General Anderson frowned. "The superweapon needs to get within orbital range to deploy." Jack studied the scans, noticing patterns in the planet's security grid. "There's a rhythm to their patrol routes. Short gaps appear every 14 hours when their defense satellites realign. A small ship could slip through." "To what end?" Anderson asked. "Intelligence," Jack replied. "Before we commit to destroying an entire planet, we should know exactly what we're dealing with." Dr. Gray supported the idea immediately. "We need to be certain this is their homeworld, not a colony of innocents." After a heated debate, Anderson approved a high-risk mission. Jack would lead a small team to the surface to gather final intelligence before the main assault. "I'll go with you," Dr. Gray insisted. "The Council would want ethical oversight." "This isn't a scientific expedition," Jack objected. "It's precisely because of that thinking that I need to be there," she countered. In the end, Jack's team consisted of 6 people: himself, Dr. Gray, Agent James Lee from Intelligence, and 3 Special Forces soldiers. Their stealth shuttle slipped past the destroyer defenses during a patrol gap, landing in a remote area of the massive hive city. "Oxygen levels higher than Earth standard," whispered a soldier as they exited the shuttle. "Gravity about 90% what we're used to." The hive city stretched in every direction, towering organic-looking structures connected by bridges and tunnels. The team moved cautiously, using stealth technology to avoid detection. "Their civilization is more advanced than we thought," Dr. Gray murmured, recording everything with a small device. "Look at the architecture, it's not just functional, it's artistic." Jack remained focused on the mission. "We need to find a data center." "Agent Lee, can you track any information networks?" Lee consulted his scanner. "Heavy data traffic in that central structure. If they have a main hub, it's there." The team infiltrated the central hive building, narrowly avoiding destroyer patrols. The interior was a maze of chambers filled with technology beyond human understanding. In some rooms, young destroyers, smaller versions of the adults, were gathered in what appeared to be learning centers. "They're teaching their young," Dr. Gray observed. "They have culture, education. They also have weapons manufacturing," Jack replied, pointing to a massive factory visible through a viewport. Production lines churned out the same ships that had reduced Hope Colony to ash. After 2 tense hours, they reached what Agent Lee identified as a central data hub. The alien technology hummed with energy as Lee connected his translation interface. "I'm breaking through their security protocols," Lee whispered. "Just need a few minutes." Jack and the soldiers kept watch while Lee worked and Dr. Gray continued recording observations. The data flowing across alien screens meant nothing to Jack, but Lee's expression grew increasingly troubled. "What is it?" Jack asked. "It's their historical records," Lee explained, his voice tight. "They call themselves the Haxari. According to this, they're refugees. Refugees? Dr. Gray moved closer to the display. Lee nodded. Their original home system was destroyed by another species they call the Devourers. They've been running for generations, establishing new homes, only to be found and attacked again. That doesn't explain why they attacked us without warning, Jack said. Actually, it might, Lee continued, scrolling through more data. Their encounters with other intelligent species have always ended in conflict. They've developed a preemptive strategy: eliminate potential threats before communication can even begin. Jack felt a cold weight in his stomach. So they destroy us because they assume we destroy them. An alarm suddenly blared through the facility. Red lights flashed as destroyer security forces responded. They've detected the breach, one soldier reported. We need to move now. They ran toward the exit, but destroyer guards appeared ahead, cutting off their escape route. In the ensuing firefight, one soldier fell to alien weapons. This way! Lee shouted, leading them down a side corridor. They fought their way through the complex, Jack's team using their superior human reflexes to outmaneuver the larger, slower destroyers. As they neared an exit, Dr. Gray stumbled and fell behind. Help! She cried as 3 destroyers surrounded her. Jack turned back, firing his weapon at the aliens. Keep going, he shouted to the others. Get to the shuttle. The mission data is more important than either of us, Dr. Gray called, struggling as the destroyers dragged her away. Jack hesitated only a moment before charging back, dropping all 3 destroyers with precise shots. He pulled Dr. Gray to her feet. We all get out or none of us do. They barely made it to the shuttle, escaping the planet's surface as destroyer ships scrambled to intercept them. The small vessel weaved through defensive fire, sustaining damage before finally reaching the waiting human fleet. Back aboard the Redemption, Jack and his team delivered their findings to a stunned General Anderson. So they attack because they're afraid, Anderson summarized. Because they've been hunted themselves. It doesn't justify what they did, Jack said firmly. No, Dr. Gray agreed. But it changes what we do next. She looked pointedly at the superweapon controls. The question is, do we become the monsters they fear we are? The command center of the Redemption buzzed with tense voices as General Anderson convened his senior officers. The tactical display showed the destroyer homeworld, now known to be the home of the Haxari, along with their defensive fleet mobilizing in response to the human intrusion. They know we're here, Anderson stated grimly. The element of surprise is gone. Jack stood beside Dr. Gray, both still exhausted from their mission to the planet's surface. Captain Taylor and Agent Lee completed the group gathered around the display. The data we recovered changes things, Dr. Gray insisted. They attacked us because their entire history taught them to fear other intelligent species. Their motives don't change what they did, Jack countered. Hope Colony, Outpost Sigma, thousands of innocent humans dead. Anderson's face showed the weight of command. I have orders to deploy the superweapon and end this threat permanently. General, Jack surprised himself by speaking up. Before we destroy their entire species, we should try to communicate. Tell them we know their history, that we understand their fear. The room fell silent. Taylor looked at Jack with surprise. You lost everything to them, Taylor said quietly. Your home, your wife. Now you want to talk. Jack's hands clenched. I want justice. But wiping out their entire civilization, that's not justice. That's becoming what they feared we were. Anderson studied him. You're suggesting we attempt communication with a species that has shown no interest in dialogue, while their fleet prepares to attack us? Yes, Jack said firmly. One chance. If they refuse, we still have the superweapon. After heated debate, Anderson gave a reluctant nod. Dr. Gray, work with Agent Lee. You have 1 hour to prepare a message. As the Haxari fleet approached, Dr. Gray and Agent Lee crafted a transmission using the language patterns they discovered in the alien data core. Jack insisted on being part of the message. "Let me speak to them," he told Dr. Gray. "Let me tell them about Hope Colony, about Lisa. Let them understand what they did to us." The message began with mathematical sequences, universal constants that would prove intelligence, followed by images from human history. Then came Jack's part, with Agent Lee translating his words into Haxari communication patterns. "I am Jack Reed," he said, staring into the recorder. "Your people destroyed my home on Hope Colony. You killed my wife Lisa and thousands of innocent people who meant you no harm." Jack paused, feeling the familiar anger rise in his chest. But alongside it was something new, a determination not to let revenge consume humanity. "We have the power to destroy your world, just as you destroyed ours," he continued. "But we choose to speak first. We know you are refugees. We know about the devourers who hunted you. We know you attack because you fear attack. But humans are not the devourers. We can choose a different path." As the message transmitted, the human fleet maintained defensive positions against the approaching Haxari ships. On the bridge, everyone watched the tactical display in tense silence. "Their fleet has stopped advancing," reported the sensor officer. "They're holding position." Minutes stretched like hours as they waited for a response. Just as General Anderson was about to order the superweapon prepared, the communications officer straightened. "We're receiving a transmission, sir. It matches the pattern Agent Lee used." The alien response appeared as strange symbols before the translation software converted it. Images showed the destruction of the original Haxari homeworld, followed by cycles of flight and rebuilding across generations. The fear that drove them was clear in every image. Then, a single Haxari appeared on screen. Its compound eyes and mandibles were alien, but its posture conveyed something universal: uncertainty. In halting, translated speech, the Haxari leader addressed them, "Humans. You know our pain. You could destroy us but offer words. Why?" Anderson looked to Jack, who stepped forward. "Because ending your existence won't bring back what we lost. Because there has been enough destruction." The dialogue continued for hours, tense and difficult with misunderstandings on both sides. But slowly, a fragile understanding emerged. "We propose a buffer zone," General Anderson finally offered. "Neutral space between our territories. A place where we can learn about each other without fear." The Haxari leader's mandibles clicked in what Agent Lee interpreted as agreement. "We will try this new way. But trust builds slowly." As the human fleet withdrew to a safe distance, a formal ceasefire was established. It wasn't peace, not yet, but it was a beginning. 1 month later, Jack stood on the observation deck of a new space station constructed at the edge of the buffer zone. Below him, teams of human and Haxari scientists cautiously worked together, studying each other's technologies and cultures. Dr. Gray joined him at the viewport. "The Council is calling this the Reconciliation Project. First diplomatic teams arrive next week. Will it last?" Jack wondered aloud. "That depends on all of us," she replied. "Hatred is easy. Understanding is harder." Jack pulled a small hologram projector from his pocket, activating an image of Lisa on their wedding day. "What do you think she would say about all this?" Dr. Gray asked gently. Jack studied his wife's smiling face. She was a botanist. She believed different species could thrive together in the right environment. He closed his hand around the hologram. "I think she'd say we're planting seeds that might grow into something better than what came before." Later that night, Jack wrote in his personal log, "Hope Colony was humanity's first step into the stars. We named it Hope because it represented our future. Today, I realized that true revenge against those who destroyed it isn't more destruction. It's building something the destroyers never expected, a future where both our species can exist without fear. That's the legacy worthy of those we lost, not more graves, but new beginnings. As Jack looked out at the stars, he felt something he hadn't experienced since the day Hope Colony fell, a sense that tomorrow might be better than today. It wasn't peace, not completely. But for the first time, it felt like justice.